farming and crafting has been perfected over centuries. Traditionally, leather was used primarily for functional items like sandals, bags, and saddles, with little emphasis on fashion. However, the narrative has changed drastically in recent years as Nigerian leather has evolved from a utilitarian product to a symbol of luxury and high fashion. Here is a special report by Bayo Olaoye. The turning point for Nigerian leather came as local designers began to recognize its potential beyond traditional uses. They started to experiment with new designs, creating products that appeal to the modern consumer while maintaining the heritage of craftsmanship. The result has been a wave of leather products that are not only functional but also stylish and desirable on the global stage. One of the key factors driving the revolution is the exceptional quality of Nigerian leather. Known for its durability and unique texture, Nigerian leather, particularly from goats and cattle, has become highly sought after by fashion houses both within and outside Africa. This demand has encouraged local artisans to up their game, focusing on quality control and finishing techniques to meet international standards. Moreover, Nigerian leather products have benefited from the global trend towards sustainable and ethically produced goods. Consumers are increasingly turning away from massively produced items in favor of the handcrafted, sustainable alternatives. Nigerian leather made using traditional methods with minimal environmental impact fits perfectly into this narrative. This has opened up markets for Nigerian leather goods, particularly in Europe and North America, where there is a growing appreciation for products with a story and a conscience. The rise of Nigerian leather on the fashion scene is also closely tied to the country's booming creative industry. Fashion designers, many of whom had gained international recognition, are incorporating leather into their collections and innovative ways. From sleek handbags and bespoke shoes to stylish jackets and accessories, the Nigerian leather is becoming a staple in high fashion. This trend is not only boosting the profile of Nigerian fashion, but also creating new opportunities for economic growth. The leather industry, once dominated by small-scale craftsmen, is now attracting significant investment. Entrepreneurs are setting up modern tannery and workshops, creating jobs and fostering skills development in the process. This industrialization of leather products is helping to formalize what was once an informal sector, leading to better working conditions and high incomes for artisans. However, the success of Nigerian leather market did not emerge without challenges. The industry still faces issues related to infrastructure, access to finance, and competition from imported goods. Additionally, there is the need for more investment in technology and innovation to further enhance the quality of leather products and make them more competitive in the global market. Despite these challenges, the future of Nigerian leather products looks bright. There is a growing recognition of the value of locally produced leather goods both within Nigeria and globally. This is evident in the increasing number of fashion shows and trade fairs dedicated to promoting Nigerian leather products, as well as the rising demand from international buyers. The evolution of Nigerian leather from a utilitarian material to a symbol of high fashion is a testament to the creativity and resilience of the Nigerian artisans. It reflects the broader trend in the global fashion industry towards sustainability and craftsmanship. As the world continues to embrace African fashion, Nigerian leather is poised to become a major player on the international stage, offering a unique blend of tradition, quality, and style. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an exciting new chapter for Nigerian leather.
congratulations on the new channel, and I'm happy to be here. The Omniverse is imagined as a collaboration platform. So it's a platform that, as the name suggests, is bringing together ecosystems. So it's like an ecosystem of ecosystems, aggregating aggregators and community leaders who are able to bring together their communities together to a platform. So the summit in itself was, while it was a big event and a heavy lift for us and the team, and I have to thank our team of volunteers. We had a team of about 40 full-time core volunteers that delivered the Omniverse. So one of the key things about the Omniverse is that it's designed to go beyond an event, and designed to be fully something that people can engage beyond the summit. So we will be launching our digital platform. We have about 70 community partners already, including a number of government institutions. So to answer the question, there's public-private partnership within the Omniverse. There's regulators, there's government departments and agencies, there's ministries. But more importantly, there's diverse sectors across the economy coming together with the understanding that tech is the biggest enabler for development across all sectors, and that if we can drive collaboration, we can scale. So that's the ethos of the Omniverse. Collaboration is the superpower that we're trying to bring to the fore. That operating in silos has not paid us, but if we come together, understand that technology affects every sector, then we think the Omniverse is here to stay. Nigerian companies, Nigerian associations, global associations, and when I say associations, it's from things like the Nigerian digital artists who have 3,000 members, right, in the NFT community, the Visual Artists of Nigeria, the Society of Nigerian Art, the AfriLabs, which is the biggest innovation hub network on the continent in 54 African countries, ISN Hubs, which is our core partner, which is the biggest innovation network in Nigeria, innovation support network, with something like 189 hubs in 30 states in Nigeria. And these are primarily private sector driven platforms, from aggregators who are major promoters of major platforms such as Lola Shonen from Ake Book Festival, Choma Ode from Afrif. We have a lot of these people who are either on our advisory board, they are co-chairs, or they are community partners, because what we're building is beyond any one person. It's about collaboration both at the top level, but through the line down to the bottom. The role of my council is, first of all, to be the primary sort of mandate is to infuse Nigerian arts and culture into everything the Nigerian government does, at state level, at federal level, and to input it into schools, education, and everywhere. So in that sense, to make arts and culture functional and front line everywhere. This will involve the foreign minister, making sure it's embedded in our foreign policy, in our embassies, in the government policy, in every sector. So we're literally going to be reaching out to collaborate to all government at all levels, all other agencies, MDAs, ministries, federal government and state government institutions, to see how we can find common ground. Because obviously we don't necessarily have a lot of money, but I feel we represent the real crude oil of Nigeria, which is the IP that the Nigerian people create. That IP they create, even if you valued it at $100 per Nigerian, that'd be something like $20 billion. And I believe each Nigerian is worth more than $100. So my own estimation, it's limitless, right? So what we have to do is we have to rethink how we imagine ourselves, rethink our own possibilities, and therefore from there, take off by pushing that agenda. But it's not an agenda for me alone. It's actually an agenda for all of Nigeria. Because when we put it front and center, it means we're putting the Nigerians front and center. And we put the Nigerians front and center, I think we win. I think historically you will find that the federal government and the governments of Nigeria have not funded heavily these sectors. They funded the heavy industries, the military-industrial complex, heavy infrastructure. But the funny thing is, whilst Africans will say, oh, this is grammar, what are you people talking about in arts and culture? What you find is that the West, right, for 500 years has dominated the world. How have they dominated the world? Through narrative. Okay, but what do we complain about? Narrative. But we haven't invested in narrative. So if you don't invest in telling your own story and owning your own story, why are you complaining about how you're perceived? So I think it's counterintuitive, and it's about time And I'm very pleased and very happy that Nigeria now has a full ministry focused on this one specific issue. Because the truth of the matter is, we are older than time itself. We come before Christ. We come before the entire Western hegemony. We are actually the origins of everything, of innovation, of technology, of science, of education. But if we don't believe it ourselves and we don't express it, how can you expect anybody else to believe it? Well, I think the difference is that as a creative entrepreneur, there's really nothing to stop me, right? I can take all the risks. I don't have to worry about anything. I can decide, win or lose, we're doing this thing. But of course, as a public official, I have rules and regulations I have to go by. I have a boss, I report to people, and I have KPIs I have to deliver on. So there's a difference in that regard. There's a difference in bureaucracy, maybe a difference in response time, but there certainly will not be a difference in my personality. So I think it's really about how you perceive what these things are. For me, it's an elevation, obviously, and it's a privilege and a pleasure to serve at this level, to do something that I believe in, to do something which is that I believe in Nigeria. I believe in Nigerians. I know our ability. I think we are world class. I don't like all this, it's good for Nigeria. I hate that. So I think for me, that is what's important. And to have the opportunity to try to deliver on some of the things we've been trying to do from the private sector for the last 25, 30 years. So there's nothing new for me in that regard. But of course, the position is new. Being in the government is new. But with a lot of support from friends, family, professional colleagues, and other people in the industry, plus my co-DGs and the minister, hopefully we'll do well. We're under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy. And that's very, very powerful because it means Nigeria itself has taken a decision to own the agenda. Hopefully I have a good time, have a good tenure, and I don't make any enemies. And well, for me, if you leave a place and the people that worked with you have good things to say, if they feel better about their work and about themselves, and if the brand that you're now leading is now appreciated by the people for what it does and how it brings it to the table, then I've done my job. I think Afrobeats has already established the fact that we are originally Nigerian. Or some people say arrogantly Nigerian. And it was intentional. We built this thing, and it was intentional because we're not going to ever apologize for being Nigerian. We're not going to apologize for being black. We're not going to apologize for being African. And that's front of mind. Because, you know, when you do show business, you have to validate it. So we validated the show maybe at least 10 years ago. So now we're in the business phase. So when you see the exit of Maven Records with UMG, you see Iwaju coming, Comic Republic with Universal Studios, you begin to understand where we're building to. And when you think about where we're coming from, where there was no infrastructure, no funding, no support, and I think part of what we hope to do with government at this time is, because we come from the sector, we can collaborate with everybody in the sector. We don't have to talk at them, we talk with them, we build with them. And together, I think it's limitless. You know, Nigerians like to say the sky is your limit. I think it's limitless. There's no limit to the whole situation. One of the things I talk about all the time is what's the difference between Thor and Shango? Thor is approaching $50 billion in revenue. Shango's broke somewhere outside Lagos. And that's a lack of imagination on our part. That's a lack of us delving into the richest thing we have, which is our mythology. Our mythology is endless. If you look at the Marvel universe and the DC Comics universe, the Orisha are basically the same thing as the X-Men. But the Orisha, some people are still afraid of them, whereas the X-Men are north of $100 billion in revenue. So I think we have to understand and reimagine our mythology, our history, our stories, and how to bring them to the world in new formats. It's not just film. It could be live action, it could be gaming. There's so many different ways to action these things. And when you do them, and you do them right at the right level, as Iwaju is beginning to show you, our stories have always been world-class. Our characters are world-class. What we have not had is the resolve and the confidence to finish. I think that is coming now. For me, I think it's still the fact there's more to do. My young brother, Misan Harriman, is nominated at the Oscars, the first Nigerian nominated for a director for a short film, because I know what that will do for the next generation of Nigerian directors, right? So for me, there's still more to do. There's so much more to do. When we see our first $100 million movie in the global box office, we need to celebrate it. When you win a Grammy, you need to celebrate it, because these are stages that we were locked out of. The technology and new media has allowed us to evade these spaces we were not even invited to. But now we're beginning to enter them and dominate. So even when you do that, you have to do it with grace and dignity, not with arrogance. And that's something that some of us have to learn. But the truth of the matter is, the greatness of the Nigerians is just beginning to come. And I feel strongly that this century, we're already in the African century, and the soft power that we hold here is what will define the future of the century. I think the most important thing, the first thing to think about is IP protection, because the minister is working strongly, intellectual property. The US, if you take the state of California, California is probably in the top 5 economies in the world, and 70% of the economy of California is driven by intellectual property, by 2 core industries: Silicon Valley, which is coming out of Stanford University, and Hollywood, which of course is the music and film industry. Now, that is for anybody that says, oh, what is this thing that they're talking about? We don't understand it, it's grammar. The grammar is the money, okay? The narrative is the money, the story is the money. So any of your children or your nieces or nephews that have talent, visual art, performing art, arts and crafts, adire, all of these things that we've been taking as vocation, they are occupations. They are extremely valuable. And with digital technology and platforms, we can scale these things and generate incredible revenue. The point being that Nigeria has so much to bring to the world in terms of these things. I think Nigerian cuisine is going to be on the level of Chinese and Indian cuisine worldwide in the next 10 years. And if you understand that, then you understand that the Indian restaurants in the UK, as far back as 2009, were generating more money than the UK automobile, shipping, and metal, steel industries combined. That's just restaurants on the high streets. So that is why we must invest and we must put our energy into this sector, because this sector would provide the jobs, provide the revenues, and provide the global dollars that everybody's looking for. Oh, I think it hasn't even started. It hasn't even started. The Maven Records deal is giving you an indication of that. The reason why that valuation of $150 to $200 million has been done is because of the upside potential of Rema, who's 23, and Arya Star, who's 20. So they're looking at the fact that in 10 years' time, these guys could have generated $1 billion each. Do you understand? So it's a safe bet when you already have a built global talent at 23, when it normally takes years and years and a lot of money to build the talent, right? So what has happened is that we Nigerians have been able to build global talents, global following, with a percentage of the money it takes people in other places to do the same thing. So because of that, the value and the valuation is much bigger, right? So I would say the Afrobeats wave, it's not even a wave. It's been going for 15 years already. So when you encounter it is when you encounter it. If you think it's an overnight success in 2024, that means you were not around in 2008. 2006, I'd say, is a good time to think when the sort of continental, because we took Africa first, working very closely and collaboratively with South Africans, Ghanaians, and Kenyans. Then we started going into Asia and the UK and America on the black, what I call the Nigerian chitlin circuits, moving through the Nigerian communities. And then by about 2010, begin to come into the mainstream with Oliver Twist and all these kind of records that break globally. And now you have gold records from Oliver Twist in 14 countries. And now, in a situation now where an artist like Ashake can come out of Lagos, speaking a language that is not known to most of these people, and generating, selling out arenas. To become an arena artist, let me tell you, there are only 4 or 5 arena artists from Africa, and they're all Nigerian. Don't take it for granted. I think a lot of people feel that, but what I should tell the rest of the country is that the rest of the continent is also trying to get to Lagos as well, right? It's not just the rest of Nigeria. From Accra, from Luanda, from everywhere on this continent, they're trying to get into Lagos, because if they can break in Lagos, they can break anywhere else in the world. But what I would say is this, from the perspective of my agency, our purview is national and global. We have 10 regional offices. We'll be visiting all of them. And our duty is to spotlight and showcase everybody. So we can't deal with just Lagos. And I think as we go forward, people begin to see the activations and plans coming. But the easiest way to do it, and the way we're going to do our best to do it, is to provide digital platforms to give everybody the opportunity to be seen. Because in this world, we live in the attention economy. So to be seen And to be noticed is very hard if you're not in the place where all the noise is being made. But I know for a fact there's significant talent in all parts of Nigeria. I was watching last week, a gentleman called Ehi Benite was showing me all this content from Jos with these guys rapping, serious stuff. They're rapping in Hausa, they were doing ciphers. And then he was like, what do we do about these guys? I said, just keep pushing them because there's an audience for everything. There's an audience for everything. Don't be worried about that. There's an audience for every single thing, including the thing that you may be doing in your bedroom, but you think is not important. Somebody's interested in it. My label was a hip-hop label. I even refused to sign singers. There's almost every singer you could name was trying to get us to sign them. And I used to do it based on, can you rap? If you can't drop a freestyle, don't bother, right? It was that simple. And we helped all the other singers get signed to labels that we thought could help them and develop them in that direction. Hip-hop has changed, and obviously it's generational, right? So hip-hop has changed, and everybody approaches music from their own generation. Like, oh, I like this kind of hip-hop or that kind of hip-hop. What I feel is that Afrobeats became overwhelming, and it overwhelmed every other genre here. So the hip-hop guys had to fight for relevance, but the best ones always rise to the top. That's just the simple truth. So I don't worry about that. And I've heard enough guys. I even saw there was a whole Instagram series some guy was doing about a year ago where he was just bringing out fresh rappers every day from Enugu, from Jos, from Kaduna, from Kano, from Benin. I love it. I think there are incredible MCs in Nigeria. A lot of times they need to focus on doing better songs, right? Not just being a freestyle rapper. If you want to get paid to rap, you've got to do better songs. You can't just do the freestyles. And that's something they've got to think about. You've got to balance the commercial side of it with the business side of it. And what has happened is, to a large extent, the commercial side has won because you've got to pay bills. But hip-hop, it never dies. I think, first of all, obviously from the perspective of I'm sitting in government, so I'm not in a position to tell government what to do or what not to do. But what I can say is this, is that the agency, my agency will be the home for the music industry, for performing arts, visual arts, fashion, gaming, recreation, festivals, culinary arts, film and television. We're kind of a convening agency for the ministry. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of places to touch, but we're also going to collaborate with all the other MDAs in the ministry and heavily with the private sector and the developmental sector. Because to answer the question, I've worked in all these spaces for, it's not quite 40 years, but it's a long time. I've worked in all these spaces for a long time. In the institution, we have positive relationships to bring to the table to change the approach and to change the destination of where we hope to go. What I will say as well is that the reality of it is we're just beginning the journey. And there are no magic wands. I'm not going to wave a wand and everything's going to be fixed overnight, and neither is anybody else. But we will be bringing fresh energy, fresh ideas, a fresh engagement, and we're obviously open to collaboration. And that's really important for me to say that, because people feel there are gatekeepers, but in my agency, there are no gatekeepers, right? We're not interested in whether you have the biggest reputation or the smallest reputation. We're interested in the value you're bringing to the table. Because the truth of the matter is Nigeria is massive. There's a lot of stuff going on in Nigeria. We're going to try to aggregate those things and bring them into one platform so that even as Nigerians, we can know what we're doing. Because to be honest, if you don't know and you don't follow, there's no way you can know 90% of what is happening even in Lagos before you talk about the rest of the 36 states in the FCT. So for me, from my perspective, the journey continues. The objective remains the same. We want to see Nigeria win. But in order to do it this time, I don't think government should ever be disinterested in the nature of the industries in which it is operating. But we also don't need to be owning the space. We want to enable, partner, collaborate, and see how we can push people to do more. Because there are already people doing a lot, and maybe they haven't been recognized, they haven't been brought out, they haven't been celebrated. All these kind of things we can help to do, help to get news stories and people to bring these things to the fore, right? Like I said today, a Nigerian who was nominated for an Oscar as a director, the first Nigerian. It's up tonight to the Oscars. It's not news in Nigeria. That's a problem. We have to be able to tell the stories that are of greatness of our people, because if you don't do that, you can't inspire anybody.
Well, I think as the name goes, we're still faring very well. We're still holding on. Basically, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited is a Nigerian company owned by the federal government of Nigeria, the 36 states, and the 774 local governments. The federal government has 47% shares in NDPHC, and the 36 states and federal capital territory, plus the 774 local governments own the remaining 53%. Originally, it was supposed to be a stopgap, build and sell power plants to increase the power availability. But in the process, as the company moved along, they discovered that if you build power plants, you also have to build complementary transmission networks. And then if you have transmission networks, you will also need the distribution network so that the power can ultimately get to the consumers. And so because of the gap that was in the sector at the time, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited was asked to build more power transmission networks, substations, injection substations. So over time, we had grown into the behemoth that we are today. Principally, we have 8 power plants functioning now, and then 2 are in the process of being completed. So that's what Niger Delta has been. But basically, I can say without any iota of contradiction that Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited has been able to increase the capacity, the network capacity, by about 50%, and of course the distribution capacity by about 60%. We are capable of producing up to 4,000 megawatts now, but there are still some constraints in the transmission network, which is being addressed by the various arms of government and the various stakeholders in the sector. If I want to talk about the problems in the power sector, you need more than an hour program. They are multifaceted. And each time solutions are being found, they are not far-reaching enough. For instance, before the enactment of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, it was thought that the problem was we didn't have enough generation power, and that's what gave rise to the NIPP, which is the National Integrated Power Project, which was basically to increase the power availability in Nigeria. And there were gaps because at that time, I don't think the solution was holistic enough. I'm talking of during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo. You remember the National Integrated Power Project was conceived at the time. And it's strange that for the past many years, we are talking about 4,000 megawatts, 4,000. In reality, the available power in Nigeria is about 16,000 megawatts now, between 13,000 and 16,000 megawatts. So you wonder, why are we producing or generating or putting on the grid about 4,800 megawatts? So there's a gap. And the gap is basically the fact that the present network is aged. it's inadequate. There is fragmentation in the sector. You have, as of today, about 26 different bodies in the power sector. And it's a typical Nigerian problem. Once Nigeria identifies a problem, they create another agency to deal with that problem, rather than looking at the problem in the eye and say, this is the problem. And I can give you so many examples. For instance, traffic, which is very basic to everybody. When after the Udoji Award in the early 70s, I think it was in the early 70s, and people had phone to purchase cars, traffic began to grow. Now, instead of taking a holistic attitude and train the police to do what they're supposed to do, expand the road networks, and begin to put a culture of driving properly in the country, we created the yellow fever, the traffic wardens at the time. You remember at the time, traffic warden was separated from the Nigerian police.
That's right.
And the problem was not solved because the people were still constrained to virtually the same network of roads, more cars on the same network of roads. And then we stopped training drivers. So Federal Road Safety Commission was formed. And of course, I'm sure that you all know that the problem became worse. And now all of the state governments are creating their own variants of the Federal Road Safety Code. An example is LASMA in Lagos. And the people are still on the same roads. You know, so whereas we had 200 cars on a stretch of road, now we have 1,000. Now we have drivers who cannot read traffic signs, which are not even there. So today, when people see traffic lights, either in Abuja or in Lagos, I mean, they don't even know what to do. I'm sure that, I can't remember the last time we trained drivers in Nigeria. I cannot remember the last time we trained drivers in Nigeria. You know, it's the same thing with the issue of corruption. When we detected, corruption was increasing, we started creating so many variants of, and I always ask the question, where is the equivalence of EFCC in the countries that we're trying to be like? So we have created EFCC, we have created ICPC, we have created Bureau for, what's that other agency? Sorry? No. Those are another problem entirely. The BP and the BPP, you know. I mean, I'm talking of Code of Conduct Bureau. But in all honesty, can we say that corruption has reduced in Nigeria? Can we say that? So the problem is that we don't look at problems in the face and deal with the issue rather than creating bodies and bodies and bodies and bodies. We don't have the variants of EFCC, ICPC, and Code of Conduct Bureau in the countries that we're trying to be like. In this age and times, honestly, it's not rocket science. There is hardly anything you want to do that has not been done before or that is not being done in some other places. I mean, so you see in various sectors that once we identify a problem, rather than look the problem in the eye and providing solution to it, we create another body. It will appear to me that it is finding job for the boys, you know, and that is one of the reasons why we are where we are today. I cannot remember the last time anybody had to do driving tests to obtain a driver's license. I can't remember. In the US, if you want to obtain a driver's license, it's a long process. And I remember My daughter, when she went to the US at the age of 18, I remember when she wanted to go and obtain a driver's license, she called me and said, "Daddy, please pray for me." And I think the first time she went there, she didn't make it. It was one slight excuse, error. And eventually, she had to go back, to retake the test. So that's what I see that we're doing wrong. And that has virtually destroyed all the sectors. The power sector is faced with so many problems. I was trying to explain to you, for instance, that the discos have various coverage areas. And if you take them one by one, you will see that some of them are covering a landmass that is bigger than 2, 3, 4 African countries together. Somebody was on my secondary school classmates forum. Somebody was trying to do a comparison between Botswana and Nigeria. And I said, Botswana has 581,000 kilometers, square kilometers. But 70% of that is Kalahari Desert. So effectively, what they have is less than 100 and something thousand kilometers. Nigeria has a vast land. Botswana has a population of 2.5 or 2 point something million. You can't compare that to. There's no basis. There's no basis. And so if they have 1,000 naira, their GDP is likely to be higher than that of Nigeria. Nigeria has 210 million people. Officially? Yes, officially. You can see the population of Lagos. I'm sure that the population of Botswana is not as thick as Surulere alone. I'm not trying to give excuses for what we are in Nigeria or how we're doing things badly. But I'm saying that we have a giant problem. We have giant problems in all of the areas. And we need to put our heads together to provide solutions to these problems. You can say that Nigeria is a country in progress. I know that we have enough human resources. We have enough intellectuals to find solutions to our problems. And I'm beginning to see that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is tackling the problems headlong. I don't want to say that they work in silos. It would not be absolutely correct. I don't want to say that. That would be too negative. I would like to say that there's need for better collaboration between all of. And then one of the greatest things that we need to do is that there must be a coordinating agency that is not encumbered with or by bureaucratic procedures. Okay, NEC is supposed to be the regulator in the society. Now, like I said before, if you have a regulator, they must be trained. And we shouldn't be ashamed to train our regulators and to ensure that we have the right people in those positions. But like I said, almost all the agencies in Nigeria, you find a lawyer heading an engineering company. It's not done. And what happens is that I don't want to create a war between professions. But the truth of the matter is that if you are a lawyer and you're doing legal consultancy in the sector, that doesn't make you to be chief executive of a purely engineering company. the last time it was an accountant that was in charge of one of the parastatals in the sector, and you know, even now that there's a new government, you see all kinds of people trying to outdo each other here and there. TCN, for instance, is supposed to be in charge of the transmission networks. Okay. But you have the independent ISO under them. How is that going to work? I mean, that is supposed to be an independent, and it cannot be under TCN. You know. The discos, for instance, who is supervising them? NERC is supposed to supervise them. But you have on the board BPE, you know, that has 40% of the shares, and they're supposed to monitor them. Are they doing that? And now the Yoruba people say, Amukun eruewo, oni wosaleni. That is, if a man is crippled or has bent knees and is carrying a load, it's not likely that the load will be straight because the legs are bent anyway. So that is the problem that we have. You know, the root cause, we are not attacking the root cause. You know, the electricity power sector reform has a transition program. But unfortunately, because we didn't do the privatization properly, we gave it to people who have no financial resources. They borrowed money from the banks to purchase the concession anyway. You know, because they borrowed money from the bank, they don't have enough funds to repair the aging facility that they inherited. So that is a problem. Now the bank is on them. The bank lent them money for 5 years, or you know, whereas this is a sector that is, I mean, you need long-term fund. You know, you need to have enough money to lay new cables, replace transformers. Some of these transformers have been there since 1960-something, to replace them. Look, where I come from in Ondo South Central District, we have not had power for up to 15 years now from the national grid. Everybody is an electricity generator company on his own. When we stepped into it to see what was happening, we discovered that the distribution company did not have enough money to repair the damaged distribution networks. So NDPC stepped into it, and we've spent almost 3 billion to repair all of that. 3 billion. Or almost 3 billion. I mean, we're talking about 6 local governments. At a point, by the time we had finished the reticulation of the networks in 5 of the local governments, we discovered that the source of supply is from Ondo. Ondo has a 2 by 30 MVA substation. One of that substation is gone. So it means that the distance of almost 100 kilometers from Ondo to Ore and to Ilaje, to Igbokoda area, to Mahin and co. Just one single 33 kV line is coming from that. So by the time the light gets to Okitipupa, what you have is candle light. It's the same thing we saw in Lafia, for instance. For years, Lafia, even the government house in Lafia, was being operated on generator, because the single line feeding Lafia and the entire Nasarawa state is from Abuja. So that's why we stepped in and built the 330, 132, 33 kV substation which was commissioned early last year by President Muhammadu Buhari. And you can see the joy in the faces of the people. Now, in Ondo South Senatorial District, for instance, they are the NDDC, not NDPHC, is building a 132 kV substation in Uderinije, which should help to bring power from Omotosho and to that area. But they have been on it for years now. And without the completion of that, there's nothing that can happen in the place. They will still have candlelight. So these are the problems. Now, NDDC is independent of NEC. It's virtually independent of the DISCO. It's independent of but they are doing a good work because they have offered to do, they have identified the problem and they have offered to do it. But who is coordinating these activities to ensure that everybody is working? And you know, one of the things I always complain about is that since this past 6-10 years, for instance, TCN has many of its projects are 85-90% completed. Some of the problems are just way live that the government should collaborate with the state governments to resolve. But what do you have? A substation is ready in Akure, for instance. A 330 kV substation is ready in Akure. The transmission line is supposed to come from Oshogbo to Akure, and another transmission line is supposed to come from Benin and drop in Akure. Because of way-live issue along the route from Oshogbo to Akure, that project has been stalled for almost 6 years. So there has to be an organization that is above NEC, that is linked only to the president, that will look at all of these things. I talked about the fragmentation in the sector. You know, look, and let me tell you something. I know that electricity is a commercial venture. Yeah. And when you put your money there, you should be able to recover your investment. However, it's also a social contract between the government and the people. It's a social contract. You know, so if you have such a transmission line, everybody should be involved. And I remember that it has to be a responsibility. I remember when we were doing a project in Owerri. And because the transformers have been there for a long time, we needed to remove the transformers to a workshop somewhere in Ikorodu there for repairs, so that when they take them back, it can function properly. And we had given authority to the EPC contractor to go and remove the transformer. But of course, when the community saw that they were removing their transformer, this was a transformer that has not been functioning for the past 10, 15 years. They refused to let them go, and the governor had to intervene. The governor also refused to let them take the transformer away. I had to personally intervene with the governor, speak with the governor, write an undertaking before the transformer can be moved to the workshop for repairs. It's not repairs, but you know they need to change the oil and make sure it's in good working condition, because it's been on the plinth for 15 years. So there has to be a coordinating agency that is devoid of bureaucratic encumbers. Initially, NDPHC was created from the federation account. The initial seed money for NDPHC was from the federation account. However, since we started producing electricity, let me put it that way, we don't receive subvention from the government. So our revenue is from the sale of electricity, sale of energy to the network and to what we call willing buyers. For instance, you will see that we still, even outside the country, we sell power to countries outside Nigeria. Yeah. So that's how we derive our, but because also we are owned by the 3 tiers of government, we have also embarked on working with the other sectors to improve the networks. For instance, we build distribution. So from the profit that we have, we build distribution networks virtually in all. There is no state in Nigeria that has not felt the impact of NDPHC. And then we, like I said, the transmission substation in Lafia was constructed by NDPHC. It's like LNG. I mean, you cannot. I mean, LNG cannot receive subvention from the federal government anymore. You know, I mean, of course, initially government put in their own investment, and the private sector put in their own investment. I'm hoping that we will move away from this structure in NDPHC. I'm really hoping that we'll and adopt the NLG structure, for instance, and bring in a huge investor to acquire 49% so that we can start operating like an LNG. You know, there's a lot of confusion in the society, you know, and even those even some high government officials don't even know the functions of NDPHC. They don't even know. I mean, we were in a gathering some time ago, and a former minister who claimed to have been a part of the conception of NDPHC was annoyed when somebody threw a question at him, and he said, "What are you talking about? I don't have power in my house, and you guys are sitting down there." And I had to lecture him and say, "Hey, I'm not supposed to put power in your house. I'm just a businessman, you know, in the sector, producing oil, producing power, electricity, like every other person, like, what's the name of Elumelu's Transcorp Power, and selling it. That's all we are." The problems are enormous. But I believe very strongly that the discos as they are now don't have the capacity. There has to be a restructuring of that sector. Under whatever you want to call it, maybe breaking their franchise into little bits. 1 or 2 of them are doing well. Eco, Disco, Ikeja Disco, yeah. Because, and also, you know, the problems are different. So, but for most of them, look, if you, let me give you an example. If you need to, under Yola Distribution Company, I mean, you know how wide that sector, I mean, that part of the country is. If you need to take a 33 kV line from one town to the other, you may be doing 100 kilometers. Whereas under the Eco Disco franchise, I mean, 100 kilometers will do 2, 3, 4, 5 communities. So we need to restructure these discos. We need to support the discos to develop a new program tailored to reduce ATC and C losses. What is ATC and C? Aggregate technical, commercial, and collecting losses. Now, when you take power from Ondo, for instance, to Ilaje, 100 kilometers, by the time, and don't forget that along that route, you are dropping power for Ore, for Ajebandele, for this, for that. By the time you get to the end, what you have is candlelight. So you will need to, and the discos don't have the finances to do these things. I said earlier that the privatization was not properly done. Okay. I'm not sure that those people have an understanding of what they were getting into. Everybody thought the power sector was like the telecommunications sector. But it is not. the amount of infrastructure that you need to put in place, physical infrastructure that you need to put in place for power is totally different from that. Because apart from your cell in telecommunication and the handset there's nothing that you need to do. You probably don't need to put poles, pay compensation. Fiber optic is for specific areas. I mean, for specific things, and it doesn't stop the telecommunication facilities.
After all, they can use satellite.
Yes, exactly, from functioning very well.
Okay.
So that the difference is, but you cannot send power remotely. You need cables, you need poles, you need transmission lines, you need all sorts of things. You need transformers. The discos should be responsible for them. But when they don't have the fund, what do? You can see that many of them, about 7 of them, are under receivership now. Some sort of receivership or the other. You can see. Because they borrowed money from the banks and they were not able to pay back within the time they thought, I mean, they were going to be able to pay back.
They were taking over.
You have to deal with each one of them, on it has to be a tailored solution to each disco. You cannot apply the same brush for all of them. Well, the truth of the matter is that at some point there will be increase in tariff. However, this is not the time for it. I mean, Nigeria, we are doing a lot of reforms now. The removal of the subsidy has increased the cost of living in Nigeria. The exchange rate, harmonization of the exchange rates is also going to affect the economy and the earning power of the common Nigerian, even though that should not be the case, because I can tell you for free that no business organization was charging their customers based on the 400 and something naira to the dollar that the CBN was and that's a fraud on its own, because CBN knows that there's nobody who is selling anything in Nigeria decides the cost of that good based on the CBN exchange rate. It's simple, because they are not sure that they will get, when they need to replace machinery, raw materials, they were not sure that they could get the dollars from CBN. So this is the best thing that could have happened. The Naira float is the best thing that can happen to our nation, Nigeria. And I'm surprised, because every expert and non-expert had been advising CBN to do this for so long. So I'm surprised that the CBN was reluctant to do what is needful, and that's about the corruption in the system. So this is not the time, and I'm advising government too. This is not the time to increase tariff. Honestly, subsidizing the power sector is not good for the economy, because the truth of the matter is that 80% of the subsidy in the power sector is being enjoyed by people who can afford to pay for electricity. That's the truth. The low tariff pays only the rich. The poor people just take advantage, just like in fuel too. Look, if you have 10 cars and you put all the 10 cars on the road, the poor man has only one way to go, just to go to office and come back, and But the man who has 10 cars the wife will take one, the children will take one, the workers will take, and that's what is happening in the sector. So yes, this is not the time to think about increasing tariff. look, in the past, the cost of diesel was very high, right? Now, a lot of people migrated to using petrol generators. Now, the cost of petrol is even almost higher than the cost of, because petrol burns faster, you use more petrol for your generator than diesel. So, generating power in your house now, where you don't have power supply from the national grid, is a big problem. No, there's no doubt in my mind that we need to migrate to prepaid meter. I mean, not only intelligent meters, so that when we have intelligent meters, nobody can manipulate their consumption. You know, if you go to some hotels in the past, all of the heavy-duty consuming equipment, their laundry, their air conditioners are connected directly, or they bypass the meters, you know. But if you have intelligent networks, that cannot happen because it will be discovered and then you will be dealt with appropriately. So there's no doubt in my mind that everybody, and it's in the interest of the consumer too, to acquire prepaid meters. And it's not the only prepaid meters that the discos should supply. It should be intelligent networks. Of course, I said earlier that they don't have the money to do it. They don't have the funds. Look, if you had an intelligent network in a place like this, for instance, you can determine what is happening without you being there. Even on your phone, you can control your distance. So I'm just trying to use that to explain what it is. So if you have an intelligent network, the discos in their control rooms will be able to monitor and ensure that energy theft is reduced to the barest minimum, and they can ensure proper operations in their own sector.
I was born on the 16th day of October, 63 years ago. I'm from Opobo, yeah, and went to school. I'm from River State, from Opobo in River State. Went to school in Port Harcourt, lived in Port Harcourt all my life, from primary to secondary school to A-levels. Then after A-levels, I got admission to Unilag. Immediately after Unilag, I got married, and I've lived in Lagos ever since. Well, it was fun for us because me and my husband were very young. My husband was 25, I was 21 and all that. But we learned on the job. We were friends. We were friends for 3 years when I was in university, and we came out, we got married. So we're like children that just got married. But I had my parents. My parents were his very good friends. So when I get naughty, he would report me to my parents. When I didn't know these kind of duties were demands of somebody's wife, they would tell me, this is my responsibility. I'm like, no. I will agree to some, I will not agree to some. But I mean, it was fun. We had our ups and downs, but we kind of pushed through it. And then the children started coming, and it was a different ballgame. You know, when you come from that kind of family, it's like part of your system. You don't really regard it as anything anymore. But sometimes I get the shock of my life because there was a time my in-laws came to Opobo for one ceremony, and I saw the king, and he gave me a hug and he gave me a pick, and they were like, whoa, the Oba Bini won't even shake your hands, as a woman. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's the same family, you understand? So we're used to that. I think we take it for granted. But maybe some other people say, you must call me a princess, you must call me that. I'm not into all those kind of things. I'm not at all. I've never been. So I can't start tomorrow. But yeah, great King Jaja of Opobo, my great great grandfather. And my children, when they studied it in school, they went to Corona school. When they studied, came, Mom, we're telling our teacher and our classmates that this King Jaja of Opobo, they told them about King Jaja of Opobo in school. And they said, that's my mommy's great grandfather. Like, whoa, no, it was like a big deal to them. For us. Absolutely, upbringing. Upbringing, my personal choice too, because you could be brought up one way and choose to go another way. You understand? My one of my philosophies in life is like this: you're not the tallest in the world, you're not the shortest, you're not the prettiest, you're not the ugliest, you're not the richest, you're not the poorest. Oh, just get with it. Do you understand? If you're looking for beauty, there are more beautiful women than you say. If you're looking for ugly, there are uglier women. If you're looking for tall, you're looking for it. So what is it? Do you understand? You didn't come into this world with anything. You're not going to go with anything. So just be grateful to God for whatever you have or whatever you are. Work towards improving on it, improving your relationship with God Almighty, and improving your relationship with your fellow human beings. That's my philosophy in life. So, what's the point carrying all the chips on your shoulder? It makes life heavier for you. Journey seven is my favorite number. It's a number for perfection, and I was born on the 16th of October. My star sign is Libra. We're always looking for perfect balance in everything. It's just an influence from the horoscopes, I'm told. But J is my husband's name, D is my name, and 7 is my favorite number. Lazy way of forming the name of a company, isn't it? So I did, and it stuck. And I knew I was going to go into couture, so that was it. Easy. I was a victim of circumstances. I keep saying it. I didn't really come into business to be a fashion designer, to go into fashion, and creativity has always been something that's innate. Okay, even before I started making clothes or doing this, I used to always give designers the styles that I wanted them to make for me. I didn't have tailors, but when I finished my NYSC at Nigerian Television Authority in Victoria Island, I decided I wasn't going to work there. I wanted to work in a more organized setup. You understand? Because of management traineeship, because I never worked all my life. My parents were too very protective. I'm the last girl in the family. They were always very protective. So I said I wanted to work somewhere, and I prayed about it. And I got into Unilever. Then it was called Lever Brothers. And for 5 years, but the intensity of work there became a bit much for me because I was a young mother. I had 2 kids then, was going on having the third one. So it became a bit time. Sometimes Unilever was one of the biggest. When the international directors come in, we used to be the ones to host them with all the Unilever affiliates. Linters, the advertising agency used to be all the Nigerian breweries, USC, you understand, AJC words, we're all Unilever group. Sometimes I won't get home until 3 a.m. when we are hosting. And with kids in the house, it can be a bit much. So I'm like, I prayed about it and I decided something has to give. It's either your family, your children you will not give them the attention they need then, and they were growing fast, or your job will suffer, and then you will not be happy, whichever way. So I decided, you know what? Let my priority be my family. And I decided to go back. And I put in my resignation. That was not what I'm fine. When I did, my chairman refused to accept the resignation. So I had to use another way to encourage him to accept it. So I left Unilever. I said, okay, I wasn't the type of person that was suited for being a housewife. I wanted to do the kind of business I would do, but still have 100% time for the kids. when the kids said, oh, they're having something in school, I'm there. Okay. I decided I was going to just market corporate gifts. When I was in Unilever, I was the assistant corporate affairs manager in charge of press. So, and being in Unilever at the corporate affairs level, I already knew a lot of companies. So I used that opportunity to get back to those companies and introduce my new business. And in the first year, I actually made more money than my 5 year stint in Unilever. So that was enough encouragement. You make more money doing your own business. You have more time for your kids, for your family, and for yourself. And you travel quite a bit because you have to go and buy the corporate gifts. So it was a win-win. Then, a few years down the line, the president, Olusegun Obasanjo, came in and said they were doing backward integration and they were going to stop the importation of all this corporate gifts and a lot of other things. So we were actually forced to look inwards. And when we started looking inwards, that's when it hit me that apart from BIC that was being produced by Eleganza, we're not really manufacturing anything in Nigeria apart from textiles and maybe I think Eleganza was doing food flask or something. And which corporate body do you want to give as end of year gifts? So what we had to do now, because a lot of my clientele were like Shell, Chevron, I started looking inwards. I said, okay, if I have to do something, I can do beddings, pillowcase trimmings, table covers, table placemat, napkins with fabrics like ashok and adira. I can do jute bags, you know. It came to me. So I had to go and buy one machine and employed one tailor. So sometimes they will call me. I did some samples. So when, even in Abuja, when they were going to have, like I remember the West African Women's Affairs, they had a conference. So they wanted jute bags. And we had about 1,000 or 2,000 jute bags. And that was quite nice. Plus, apart from the end of year activities. So that's it. But you know, after those periods, you have periods of lull. Like you're not using the machine and the tailor. You have to be paying tailor for doing it. I'm like, why am I going to these people to make my clothes? Tailor, oh yeah. This is the style I want. I started first by giving some of my clothes, repeat it. You did well. So I started designing. I could sketch very well. I was a science student in school, but I could sketch really well. So I was sketching, would do well. And sometimes when I wear the clothes and I go to supermarket, some women will just call me, hey, I really like this thing you're wearing. Please, where did you make it? I'm like, okay, I'll give you the address. I give them the address. They started coming. Before I could say that, within 1 month, I had over 50 women I had to make clothes for. And the one tailor was no longer enough. I had to employ 2 others. That was how we started. From 2 to 4, then I had a whole factory before you could see that. I started making school uniforms, started doing all kinds of things. And then some of the magazines, like Genevieve magazine, look at me like, are you sure you make this outfit? I thought you were a broadcaster. I thought you sell. I said, yes, I did. So I did some photo shoot session for her. And I modeled the clothes actually. And whoa, I started getting calls from Paris, from the UK. I did DC Fashion Week. You know, I was just, and they will pay your ticket, pay your hotel. Please come and showcase for us. Some will even say, please come and open the show for us. Some say, we want you to close this. I'm like, okay. There are places that I would never have thought of going to, like Burkina Faso. They will invite me, the top fashion designers there would, when the Alfadi does this thing once every 4 years. Alfadi in Niger. The Niger government sponsors it. He calls all, including Elisab, every international designer, they will go, especially the Moroccan ones, those North African ones, Indians. So they invite one designer from each country. So they used to call me to come because of what I used to work a lot with Ankara and Ashok, and I do international acclaimed, how would I put it, couture outfits with Ankara, big hats, funny looking, structured clothes and all that. So that was how it went, you know. And I did all the magazines. I've won all the awards. So after a while, I started thinking of concentrating on exports. In the process of doing that, my husband took ill. After 2 years, we lost him. So when I came back home, I gave a lot of things a lot of thought. My kids were still in school. My daughter got married. She was in Australia already. And then my kids, my two boys were still in school. So I said, look, this fashion design thing is not going to pay school fees in pounds sterling and dollars. So I said to myself, you know what? Why don't you give the man hours to the industry, the family business that were yielding the most income? That was how I started kind of just saying, you know what, let me just minimize it a bit. My core clients were still coming. So I kept the tailors, my experienced tailors that worked with for years. I kept few of them. And I kind of cut down on that business. I said, you know what, let me just go and face the family business and do this for the people who really know what I'm doing. And word of man goes. So I'm still doing that, but my priority is really not that When you look at me the first time you see me, you see a fragile woman that don't like to sweat, that's spoiled, that like to be kept. I'm like, what? Absolutely not. My husband didn't want me to do anything. He just felt he wanted to spoil me. I said, that's not how to love me at all. Please. It's either you kind of understand the person I am. I'm a very creative mind. This mind has to keep working, or I'll make life miserable for you. What I will advise, even women who are willing to work, you don't even do one job. You must get at least more than 2 streams of income. Otherwise, you will not make ends meet. That is the truth of today's world. You understand? Then those ones that want to be kept, no matter how wealthy your husband is, wealth is not static. Some people start today. When they retire, everything goes downhill. Some people mean well. They love you. They want to take care of you. But nature calls. They part ways. Some marry other women. Some leave. Some die. You understand? So anything can happen. I would advise them, everybody, try as be as independent as you can. Financially independent. I think you actually earn more respect when you do that. And then also, when things don't work out too well for the husband, no matter how rich you are, you don't have to put him through too much stress. You can take care of yourself, you can take care of yourself, you take care of him, you encourage him, but let him not feel that the world has come to an end. A man feels happy when he knows that his back is covered, even when he's not making it. You understand? It doesn't make him lazy. It makes him very grateful. Yeah. So I will advise everybody, get something doing. Do something that will enable you earn good income if you can. Do something that you also enjoy doing. I've always believed in garbage in, garbage out. Yeah? Garbage in is the stress abound. You cannot control that. But you can control your attitude towards stress. Stress is number one killer and ages of everything in this world. It's your attitude to stress that you have to manage, and that depends on you. What you put in your mouth also depends on you. Your mind, your heart, your spirit, your soul. You have to be loving. You have to be forgiving. You understand? All that depends on you. So it's actually you that decide whether you're going to age gracefully or you're not. Forget about the genes first. It's true. You understand? Some people are so malicious. When you offend them once, oh my goodness, they will carry it in their chest, and the chest will be expanding, and they won't sleep well, and and they begin to have problems. Meanwhile, the person you're angry with does not even know you exist. It's crazy. So for me, it's just be free and take life easy. Take it as it comes, and always be grateful to God. Mm, I'm too I'm too honest and straightforward. It's either I will be killed immediately, or because I will tell you the truth, no matter whose ask is God. I don't think I can play politics. I'm not a politician at all. I am a very straight shooter. I will tell you to your face when you're doing stupid things. That was my relationship with my mom, my dad, my husband. So most times I'm the last girl in the house. So maybe when they were disciplining the first ones, by the time they got to my turn, they were a bit tired. So we could talk to my parents anyhow. But I don't do it to create whatever. I just feel that if anybody worth talking to is worth talking to with honesty and integrity. And when you want to play politics, they will see something that is black. They will say it's yellow. I can't do that. For the love of me, I can't. So politics is not my call. And because of that, they will not allow your creativity to come out, your sincerity. What's the point? Yes. I'm actually planning some kind of. I met some of my old models that are doing very well. And when you deal with a lot of these girls, some of them have traveled with me to Niger. Sometimes they'll tell you bring two of your models. Some of them we have very good relationship. We're going to do a reunion one of these days. It will be fun. And they are all calling, when are we going to do this? I say, don't worry. We'll get a reunion done. Because we need to revisit the fashion industry, see how things are going. They're doing well. The new ones are doing well. And I just pray that the environment will not discourage them. It's not just Nigeria, it's the world. Whatever is happening in Nigeria is what the truth is. A crate of egg in Nigeria is still cheaper than a crate of egg in the US and in the UK, even with the exchange rate. So it's not just Nigeria, the world is experiencing some kind of. The way I see it is like the pangs of birth before the child finally comes. That intense labor. And then when the child is born, everything is calm and beautiful, everybody's happy. I think we are just towards the end of the labor pain. It's going to get better, but we're going to pass through a lot of that before it gets better. And when it finally gets better, we'll all be smiling. But right now, the whole world, not just Nigeria, is crazy. If you look at international, listen to international news, it's actually crazier than here. I just pray. Yes, I live opposite. I won't even say it. On the street, one of the big men that live on that street, his birthday was yesterday, and the whole street was filled with beggars, hungry people. It was really crazy. I felt so bad. We were pushing each other, killing each other, fighting just to get a plate of jollof rice. It was very sad. It didn't used to be that bad. There were a few people who come hang around, but the whole street, I couldn't move anywhere yesterday because of it. But I hope it gets better soon, so that the best in all of us can come in. Because hunger and poverty can actually bring out the worst in people. Naturally, yes. I have an NGO that I do. What I do, I take girls, young girls that are not able to complete school because of poverty, and I educate them. You understand? I try to pay school fees, help people, and I believe in education a lot. Yeah, because I don't believe in giving you the fish. I believe in teaching you how to fish. I have few of them from my place come stay with me. Some of them are able to stand the discipline. Some of them are not able. So the ones that are able to stay, they stay and they do very well. Some of them I train from a distance and they do well. So I've had university graduates, I have A levels, I have all kinds of things. That's what I do. And most people come to me naturally, not because I'm a trained mentor or anything. When you do anything out of love, an act of sincerity of purpose, and because they see you as genuine, they listen to you. You understand? When you mean well, you tell people the honest truth, and it's not easy sometimes, but yes, a kind of mentor.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.